Like, crime or no crime, Trump being in possession of these documents is fucking nothing compared to the multitude of literally treasonous acts that have been committed by Biden and Hillary Clinton.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich, and we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey everyone, welcome to Freedom Friday. So, the only thing that has been dominating the news lately is Trump being indicted again. So, per the usual, you have the left wing media saying Trump should go to jail forever, and the right wing media saying that this is nothing but a civil documents case that has never been used criminally. And I mean, just look at Hillary Clinton with her 30,000 emails that were intentionally destroyed. But
Yep.
like every other time they go after him, Trump got another boost in the polls with 60% of GOP voters saying that he is the one that can beat Biden. And according to a new CBS News / YouGov poll, 80% of likely Republican voters think Trump should remain eligible for re-election to the presidency, even if he is convicted. Tara, I'm telling you, every time they go after him, it helps him. It's like
Yeah,
this should just be part of his campaign strategy at this point, you know?
it just might be.
It probably is. He's probably like rooting behind the scenes for this. So, the special counsel that was appointed to investigate Trump's handling of classified documents after leaving the White House is Jack Smith. And he held a briefing at the Justice Department stating, quote, "Today, an indictment was unsealed charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, as well as participating in a conspiracy to obstruct justice. This indictment was voted by a grand jury of citizens in the Southern District of Florida, and I invite everyone to read it in full to understand the scope and the gravity of the crimes charged." End quote. But here's something that the media is not talking about. When you look into Jack Smith, there's some interesting things going on there. So, this New York Post article from November has resurfaced again that brings up what I think appears to be a clear conflict of interest with this Jack Smith. And this all resurfaced because Don Jr. retweeted it. And the article reads, quote, "The wife of special counsel Jack Smith is a filmmaker who produced a movie about former First Lady Michelle Obama and also donated to President Biden's 2020 campaign. Katie Shavini is credited as a producer on Becoming, a 2020 documentary about Obama. And Federal Election Commission records show that she donated $2,000 to support of Biden's presidential run that same year. Tara, is it just me or is that a huge conflict of interest? Like, clearly this guy is biased, or does that not matter?
Um, we already know, Stephanie, rules don't apply to the left. And that whole phrase, conflict of interest, basically describes our entire federal administration at this point. And,
True.
obviously Trump has put out a lot of posts on his Truth Social platform since the news of these charges. And he did an interview with Roger Stone back on June 11th. And he said some interesting things during that interview as well. And like, obviously, there were, MAGA supporters that showed up for his arraignment. And beforehand, he was urging people to protest peacefully. So it was like, the whole January 6th vibe thing going on again. But he spoke the truth because he said, our country's being taken away from us. He talked about how the country's turning communist and Marxist, and we need to stand together and go out and peacefully protest. But everyone is afraid to do anything. And after what happened to all the good people who showed up to support Trump on January 6th, of course, people are afraid to do anything because innocent people got arrested and thrown in jail. And that's exactly what the Biden administration wants. They want people to live in fear of speaking up or standing up for what's right. And I want to play this clip from the Dan Bongino show. It's from last week, so it's an older clip, but I think a lot of people still don't understand the evil intentions of this administration. And it has nothing to do with, saving democracy or protecting LGBTQ trans rights or any of the shit that they're promoting. It comes down to nothing but control. So I'm going to play this short clip.
Why is this happening right now? It's happening because tyrannical, communist, scumbag, liberal leftists, they're ushering in the police state. Every police state's required useful idiots. And the most useful idiot of all is the modern progressive who celebrates in front of their kids how wonderful this is, the police state, not realizing their very kids are going to suffer at the hands of the police state they ushered in. Every totalitarian commie regime in human history has required a class of useful idiots. The modern progressive is the most useful of idiots. Our corrupt government is desperately hiding the biggest political scandal of our time, Joe Biden's alleged $10 million bribe, two $5 million bribes. They are hiding this. And to hide it, they're attacking Donald Trump. It's the same thing they did hiding collusion and the quid pro quo in Ukraine. It's the exact same thing.
He's absolutely right.
Hell yeah, he is.
Don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And like during this interview that Trump did with Roger Stone, he stated, quote, "We have plenty to protest. We've lost everything. We've lost our borders. We've lost our election integrity. We've lost our respect all over the world." And he's absolutely right. We are literally having everything taken away from us and having our country turned into a police state. Dan Bongino said it perfectly. And if we don't collectively wake up and start to fight back, we are going to end up a communist nation. And the freedoms that they're already taking away from us, the remaining ones that we have, are going to be lost, because that's exactly what this administration wants and why they are fighting so hard to destroy Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised because I like to watch C-SPAN to see like when they're holding hearings and things, because they'll show like the whole thing instead of just showing a clip. And so I came across a segment that they were doing where they had viewers call in just to give their opinion on this whole thing that's happening with Trump. I was shocked. Like, there were so many people that were just outraged and were like telling off this host. And they were talking about how this is being done to keep Trump from running. Like, it's keeping a political opponent from running for the highest office in this country, and how that is like exactly what you think of when you think of like a corrupt third world nation. And there were a lot of people that said that they had absolutely made up their mind that they were not going to vote for Trump until this happened again. And they're like, I'm just at the point where like, I just want to stand up for what's right. And it's pissing me off because this is showing how corrupt our country has become. And now I'm absolutely going to vote for him. So it's actually like making people like him more, which is, what I was saying at the beginning. It's like his polling is better every time they go after him. And I'm the same way. Like, every time I start leaning towards someone else, they do something to piss me off like this. And then I just want, the justice to happen. And so then like I want to vote for him over someone else. So it's just like ridiculous. But I want to play a clip. There were so many good clips, but there was one guy that really laid out the timeline perfectly. So I want to play this clip real quick. So this is one of the viewers that called in to C-SPAN to give his opinion.
You look at the timeline. As soon as they find the 20 LLCs of Joe Biden's companies, what happened? Trump got indicted by Alvin Bragg. Yesterday, they come out with a $5 million scheme, a bribery scheme that, where's the money? It's malarkey was his answer.
Well, you're drawing straight lines between those instances and yesterday. How do you prove that?
Oh, yesterday is just, it's Trump. They've been doing this 1, 2, 3, 4 punch on him for how long? Since he was president? It's driven by the state-run media, and you're part of it. How many Fox News clips have you shown on your show this morning?
Okay. Again, how do you draw the line between what you're claiming and the charges against the president? That's what I like to know.
It's the truth. When Trump will be indicted for the Georgia, as soon as they come out with more evidence against Biden, every time they come out with evidence of Biden doing a crime, Trump gets indicted.
So I thought that was a really good point. Like, literally every time there's heat on Biden, And we know this week, again, the whole thing came out about $5 million for Biden. They go after Trump. So it's like almost like you can just expect it now. And I think that whenever they're accusing Trump of doing something, like we've talked about this so many times, it's exactly what they're doing. And I think now, though, everyone is aware of it, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, or you have your head in the sand. I think more and more people are waking up to this.
How can you not be at this point?
Right. Well, you have to you would have to actively not be paying attention, or you just hate Trump so much that you don't care, which I'm sure is the case with some people. But it's like when they accused him of Russia collusion, it turns out it was proven that the Hillary Clinton campaign was the one colluding with Russia. And like same thing here. I'm sure whatever documents Biden had at the Penn Biden Center were way worse, considering China all of a sudden became a huge donor once Biden had his office there, right? Like, so let's just sum up this timeline, okay? It's like first we have the 2016 election, and you had the FBI lie to FISA courts regarding the whole Russia collusion hoax. And it turns out the whole thing was made up by Hillary Clinton. Then in 2020, during that election, you have the CIA that, 51 CIA members lie and sign their names saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation when they absolutely knew it was not and that it was real. Now we're gearing up for another election for 2024. And now the DOJ is refusing to go after Biden, despite all of this evidence that's like thrown in their face every single day around the bribery between Ukraine and him being bought by China. But they go after Trump. Over what? Over documents, which both Biden and Hillary had, and not a damn thing was done to either one of them, even though they were not presidents at the time. So they didn't have that authority. So we have the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ, all lying and being selective in who they apply the law to. And it's clearly showing that our government is weaponized and there are two tiers of justice. And just like Trump always says, they're not going after him. They're going after us, and he's just standing in their way.
And that's what I feel like I hope more people are waking up to, but I think a lot of people are still blind to the fact that this isn't about Trump. This is about the fact that Trump is the person who can save our country from this communist totalitarian regime. And that is the biggest threat to not only this administration, but to the whole World Economic Forum plan, right? Because if the World Economic Forum loses America, like think about this, if they lose America, the whole agenda for global domination is lost, and they are hedging their bets on that happening with this administration. So it really isn't just to get Trump. It's to just keep the one person out of office who can bring America, like seriously, make America great again.
Yeah. And truly, I think he is the one person that can stand up to it. Like if he can get through all of this bullshit that he's been going through for 8 years, whatever, then he can stand up to them and stay strong. Where I don't know if any of the other candidates would be able to do that. Like they probably could be persuaded. So far, it's happened with every other president that we've had. So what really surprised me, though, is that presidential candidate Vivek, how do you say his last name, Tara? Ramaswamy? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I totally butchered that. I really like him, though. He's pretty cool. And he held a press conference in Miami saying that he has put in a FOIA request, which is the Freedom of Information Act request, for any and all communication between Biden and Special Counsel Jack Smith. So by law, they're required to turn over any of these communications. And if they don't, he said that he is committed to suing the Biden administration, and his campaign will cover the costs of that. Tara, I think that's pretty remarkable that Trump's competitor for the presidential race is going to bat for him to the point that he's willing to fund a lawsuit to get to the truth behind this indictment and the weaponization of our government against, Biden's biggest political rival in this upcoming election. So I thought that was really cool of him.
Yeah, and he is the only one who has even said he would do anything like this. You have other people who are speaking out and saying it's wrong, but nobody has gone to this length. And I think that's freaking awesome. And, it's like you just said, this is essentially election interference. I mean, that's what this is. And Trump even said this himself, like, the left is just grasping at any possible straw to keep him out of office. And 2 days after the indictment announcement was made, he was in Georgia and he was still on the campaign trail. And he basically said that this indictment by the Biden administration is going to go down as one of the most horrific abuses of power in the history of our country. And he said, Biden's trying to jail his leading political opponent, which is what they do in Stalinist Russia and communist China. And, I'm not going to defend whether what Trump did was legal or illegal because I don't know all the facts. And at this point, all we know is that he's been charged with these 37 felony counts and that it involves retaining 31 government documents. And a lot of them were apparently classified as top secret. There's accusations of gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information related to U.S. military plans and our nuclear capabilities. And he supposedly violated the Espionage Act. And, like you stated earlier, this, case alleges he participated in conspiracy to obstruct justice and lie to federal agents and investigators about these documents. And from what I understand, even if they can prove one of these counts against him, the maximum sentence for each of the most serious charges can carry a penalty of anywhere between a 10 and 20-year prison sentence. So what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically lock him away for life. And so he was arraigned on Tuesday. He pled not guilty. And since we're recording this podcast, a little earlier in the week than we normally do, there may be developments that, come up before this episode airs. So we could be behind the curve. But whether these documents were appropriately classified or declassified or Trump lied about them, I'm not disputing the fact that he possibly committed a crime because, again, we don't know. But what should be alarming and very concerning to the American people is the vendetta and the clear malice that's taking place over the past several years to bury this man. Crime or no crime, Trump being in possession of these documents is fucking nothing compared to the multitude of literally treasonous acts that have been committed by Biden and Hillary Clinton. And it's like you stated earlier, Stephanie, and like we've said on this podcast, untold amount of times, neither of them have ever been held accountable for anything. And this case against Trump is literally the first time in fucking history that a former president of the United States has been formally accused of violating federal law. And, it's like you said, there's 2 tiers of justice. And if this administration has its way, we will never have a free country again.
Yeah. And everyone should really wake up and think about that it's really not about Trump. It's about every single person that lives in this country. And I want to play a clip from Kash Patel. So he is a Trump senior advisor now, but he was the former Department of Defense chief of staff and federal prosecutor. And he's done a really good job, in my opinion, of making this understandable in a crystal clear, easy to understand way. So I just want to play this clip because he walks you through the whole indictment and what his take is on it.
The Presidential Records Act. Let's set the sequential stage. NDI, classification statutes, Presidential Records Act. If I have my math right, it was passed right around the Carter administration and really went into effect during the Reagan administration. And what Congress said was simple. When you're president and you leave, you can take whatever you want. And when you take it, whether it's classified or not, it's yours. Personal property. Okay. Doesn't matter if he took a sticky note or 10,000 boxes of information. The same law would apply to him. And so the Presidential Records Act is simple. The president can take whatever he wants when he leaves office. That's it. And here's the kicker. Part of that act says it becomes his or her personal property. That means it transitions from being U.S. government property to the personal private property of the past president. That's the Presidential Records Act in a nutshell. If Congress wanted the classification acts and espionage acts written in the 50s to supersede the Presidential Act written after it, they would have written the Presidential Records Act differently. The law that comes after supersedes the prior unless Congress says otherwise. And they didn't say otherwise in the Presidential Records Act creation. In the indictment, you see a paragraph or two about how President Trump is speaking to his lawyer about options. And if you know President Trump, which I know you do, and of course I'm still a senior advisor and I talk to him frequently, he jokes all the time. That's his mannerism a lot. You can't capture that in a black and white typecast. But let's put that aside for a second. So they took that and they said this. We went to a federal judge. A federal judge ruled that attorney-client privilege doesn't apply because there's a crime fraud exception. Wow. You just literally told the world, DOJ, that any criminal is charged with any offense or potential to be charged, or anyone who's not even charged with an offense and has an attorney-client relationship can't talk possible options with their attorney. And what DOJ is trying to masquerade this as is, oh no, they were in on it together as a criminal conspiracy. How? And so it's a devastating blow just to justice. Forget whether you're Democrat or Republican. You've just literally thrown Arctic water on the Constitution and chilled the effect of people to have conversations with their attorneys about what their options are.
Okay, so I thought there were a couple really important points there. First of all, he's saying that since the Presidential Records Act was decades after the Espionage Act, it would supersede the Espionage Act. So that was like the first thing that I was finally able to wrap my head around. And then that last part is scary. Like he's saying the DOJ is basically saying, you know, this whole attorney-client privilege is thrown out the window. So normally, your attorney cannot go and testify against you. It's privileged information, and they just fucking threw that out the window. And that should concern every single person in this country right now, Democrat or Republican. That is really concerning.
Yes. And it's, again, clear abuse by the Department of Justice and the Biden administration. And I also want to point out, like you talked about earlier, how every time something comes up with the Biden crime family, they somehow go after Trump, right? And Trump's indictment was announced on the exact same day that FBI Director Wray had to provide the Republicans with the documents that were alleging Biden took the $5 million to help get that Ukrainian prosecutor fired, because he was investigating the Burisma energy firm that was connected to Hunter Biden. And how convenient, right? And, Florida Rep. Matt Gaetz tweeted back on June 8th, he said, quote, imagine being naive enough to believe that the Biden bribe evidence and Trump indictment happening on the same day was a coincidence. And Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley also tweeted, DOJ indicts former president / candidate Trump the same day, and he put that in caps, DOJ and FBI restricts access to unnecessarily redacted Biden allegations, and they wonder why people think there are two standards for justice. Like, it's complete hypocrisy, Stephanie. And what's even more disturbing is, this is, again, a clear example of the government overreach that continues to happen again and again with this administration. And nobody has been effective in doing anything to stop it, because we keep trying to go through these legal channels and our entire justice system is corrupt. So how can you follow legal channels and get anyone on the left prosecuted or held accountable when the whole system is corrupt? It's a complete joke.
Yeah. And like you said, it's total hypocrisy. And speaking of that, I gotta close this out with just kind of a funny clip of Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, just clearly laying out the hypocrisy of the left and basically destroying this CNN reporter's career in the process. So hopefully this will make you laugh a little bit.
Your network can hire Andrew McCabe, who was fired from the FBI for leaking classified documents. Did you remove him from your network? No, you continue to put him on. You give judgment against President Trump.
Speaker.
You also hire Clapper. Clapper has come out publicly.
Mr. Speaker,
and
what steps is the House going to take in terms of, is there any effort to defund the FBI, any effort to defund the Department of Justice after what you've seen over the last several days?
So your network hires Clapper, who literally lied to the American public, one of 51 other individuals that had briefings and used it politically to tell the American public that a laptop was Russia collusion, even though it had all this information about the Biden administration. Are you prepared to get rid of those people from your network? Because my concern as a policymaker is that when you weaponize government and now you're weaponizing networks, that is wrong. So we will take all of our power to make sure that the legal system in America gets the blinders back on and people are treated fairly. I have a real problem that your network actually pays people who did classified information and then lied to the American public to try to influence a presidential election. And then you put them on your network to give an opinion about the president. And again, I'm answering your
But you're not answering what the
very
House-
clearly,
what the
because
House
what
is
your
prepared
network
to do.
has done has weaponized.
Oh my God. So I love how he just like totally, she cuts him off and he just completely goes right back to what he was saying. But he made some damn good points. Okay. Because he's saying not only is the government weaponized, but the media is weaponized. And here, she was basically going after Trump about these classified documents. Trump, who is the president, right? And he's saying, well, look at the people that your company, CNN, has hired. Clapper gave classified documents, classified information to the media to weaponize it. So and you hired him. And it was like just such a clear hypocrisy that he just laid it out there. And I'm like, this woman's definitely going to lose her job over that. But I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, he's awesome. And, I just want to point out to you that Trump is still planning to continue his campaign, right? From what I understand, even if he is convicted, there's not any law on the books that prevents him from running or even from winning the presidency. Now, I'm sure the Biden administration is going to try to do something to change that. And Biden will probably do some, what do you call that when an executive order to change the law. But I hope that this new level of corruption, because this is unprecedented level of corruption, I hope that this fucking wakes people up and, like you were saying in the beginning, Stephanie, gets more people to vote for Trump.
Yeah, I'm really betting that it will. So we'll keep everyone updated as this case moves forward. I'm sure it will drag out as long as they possibly can to make him try to smear him during this whole campaign. But we'll keep you posted. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here for our Motivation Manifestation Monday. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you get our latest episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you could, please rate and review the show. We are going to be reading every single review, and I would love it if you hopped over to Instagram at Unapologetically Outspoken and say hi. We want to see who's out there and start a conversation, plus get all of the topics that you want us to talk about next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.